Captain Eric Daniels stood on the bridge of the Earth Alliance vessel Intrepid, his eyes fixed on the viewscreen as the massive alien ship approached. His heart raced with both excitement and fear. This was the moment humanity had waited for since they first looked up at the stars. First contact with an advanced alien civilization. "They're hailing us, Captain," said Communications Officer Linda Miller, her voice steady despite the tension. "Open a channel," Eric replied, straightening his uniform. The screen flickered too. Life revealing two alien beings. One resembled a tall, thin bird with shimmering blue feathers and piercing yellow eyes. The other was amphibian-like with moist green skin and large, bulbous eyes that seemed to look through Eric rather than at him. "Greetings, humans," the bird-like alien spoke, its beak moving in perfect sync with the English words. "I am Ambassador Krell of the Thraxi. Beside me is Representative Morga of the Morkai. We represent the Galactic Council, the governing body of civilized species in this sector of the Milky Way." Eric swallowed hard before responding. "I am Captain Eric Daniels. Of Earth, we are honored to make your acquaintance." That first meeting in 2157 changed everything for humanity. The Galactic Council, a federation of 27 advanced species, had been watching Earth for decades. Now that humans had developed faster-than-light travel, the Council had decided. It was time to make contact. Within weeks, Earth was buzzing with the news. Governments unified under the Earth Alliance to present a united front to the galactic community. Dr. Olivia Ross, the most respected xenobiologist on Earth, was chosen to lead the diplomatic mission to the Council's capital world, Nexus Prime. Olivia stood in the grand chamber of the Council, a massive room with soaring crystal ceilings that captured the light of 3 suns. Delegates from all 27 species sat in tiered seats around a central platform where she now stood, alongside Admiral William Carter and 4 other human representatives. "Esteemed Council members," Olivia began, her voice echoing in the vast space, "humanity comes before you with open hands and hearts. We seek to join your community, to learn from your wisdom, and to contribute our unique perspectives and abilities." Many council members nodded appreciatively, but Olivia noticed the Kaldorian delegation watching with cold, calculating eyes. The Kaldorians were humanoid with pale gray skin and no hair. Their leader, High Minister Zaxter, had been openly skeptical about humans since their arrival. After Olivia's presentation, Zaxter rose to speak. "Fellow council members," I urged caution. "Let me show you what these humans truly are." The chamber darkened and holographic images appeared in the center of the room. They showed scenes of human wars, environmental destruction, and violence throughout history. World War II, the nuclear bombs dropped on Japan, terrorism, climate disasters. These creatures advanced from primitive tool use to nuclear weapons in less than 10,000 years, Zaxter said. Their technological growth rate is unprecedented and dangerous. Their history is soaked in blood. They fight over resources, ideology, even skin color variations among their own kind. Murmurs spread through the chamber as the council members viewed humanity's darkest moments. Admiral Carter stepped forward. "Every species has a violent past. We have learned from our mistakes. Earth is now unified. We have solved many of our environmental problems. We seek peaceful exploration, not conflict, but the damage was done." Fear had taken root. For 3 days, the council debated humanity's fate. Olivia and her team worked tirelessly, meeting with individual delegations, explaining human culture, art, philosophy, and scientific achievements. Some, like the dolphin-like Arlani, were sympathetic. Others, led by the Kaldorians, pushed for humanity's isolation. On the final day, Olivia stood again before the council, making one last plea. "Yes, we have made terrible mistakes. We have fought wars that scarred our world. But we have also written poetry that can move one to tears. We have created music that speaks directly to the soul. We have sacrificed ourselves to save others. We are capable of great love as well as great destruction. Are any of your species so different in their early development?" There was a long silence. Then the head of the council, an ancient Thraxi named Elder Voss, spoke. "We have reached our decision. While we recognize the potential of humanity, we also see great danger. Your species develops too quickly. You are too adaptable, too ambitious, too willing to fight. The Council has voted. Earth and all human colonies will be quarantined for a period of 500 years. The human delegation gasped in shock. This is not a punishment, Elder Voss continued. It is a chance for your species to mature. In 5 centuries, if you have evolved beyond your violent tendencies, you may petition again for membership. Before Admiral Carter could protest, the Kaldorian delegation activated a device. A shimmering field of energy appeared around the human representatives. The barrier is already being erected around your solar system, Zaxter said with a cold smile. No signals can penetrate it. No ships can pass through it. You are cut off from the galaxy for your own good and ours. The journey back to Earth was silent and heavy with defeat. Olivia spent most of it in her quarters, reviewing the council records they had been permitted to keep, searching for any loophole, any hope. When they finally reached Earth, the barrier was visible from space, a faint, shimmering dome encasing the entire solar system. All human colonies beyond Sol had been forcibly evacuated. Their inhabitants returned to Earth. Olivia stood before the United Earth government in New Geneva, her voice breaking as she delivered the news of their cosmic exile. They fear us, she concluded. They fear what we might become. President Gregory Martinez looked out at the assembled leaders of Earth, his face grim but determined. Then we will use these 500 years well, he said. If they expect us to be primitive savages when this barrier comes down, they will be sorely disappointed. Humanity will not simply wait to be judged worthy. We will become a civilization that the galaxy cannot ignore, cannot contain, and cannot defeat. When we return to the stars, we will show them exactly what humanity is capable of. The chamber erupted in applause, but Olivia felt a chill. She wondered if this reaction, this defiance, this determination to prove their strength was exactly why the Council had been right to fear them. As she looked around at the resolute faces of Earth's leaders, she knew one thing for certain. Humanity's exile had just begun, but so had their path to becoming something far greater than the Galactic Council could imagine. 50 years passed since the day humanity was cast out from the stars. Dr. Nathan Pierce hunched over his workstation in the orbital laboratory circling Earth. His eyes were tired but determined as he adjusted the settings on what many called his life's obsession, the listening post. The massive array of sensors pointed outward beyond the shimmering barrier that had imprisoned humanity for half a century. Any changes today? Asked his assistant Kathy Williams as she floated into the lab. With 2 pouches of coffee. Nothing yet, Nathan replied, accepting the coffee with a grateful nod. But the quantum fluctuations are becoming more predictable. We're getting clearer images through the barrier. The listening post had started as a small project, but now it was humanity's eye into the galaxy beyond their prison. Although the Council's barrier prevented physical travel, it didn't block all observation. With increasingly advanced technology, humans could study what was happening in the stars. Denied to them, what they discovered had changed everything. On the main screen, a planet rich with resources was being systematically stripped by massive mining ships. The native population, blue-skinned beings with 4 arms, worked in chains. Nearby Council peacekeepers, mostly of the reptilian Draxid species, stood guard with weapons ready. Record everything, Nathan said, his voice tight with anger. Send it to Central Command immediately. Back on Earth, Commander Samantha Reeves reviewed the footage in the underground facility that housed the Phoenix Protocol. The secret military program had one purpose: to develop the technologies humanity would need when they finally broke free of their prison. This confirms what we've suspected, she told the assembled military leaders and scientists. The Galactic Council isn't the benevolent federation they claim to be. They're exploiters, colonizers. General Frank Cooper nodded grimly. According to Dr. Pierce's observations, this isn't an isolated incident. At least 17 species are being used as little more than slave labor, and we would have been next, Samantha added. They didn't quarantine us because we were violent. They did it because we wouldn't have accepted their rule. The Phoenix Protocol had been developing weapons and defense systems. specifically designed to counter Council technology. Each observation from beyond the barrier provided new insights. The humans learned, studied, and adapted. Meanwhile, humanity underwent changes that would have astonished the Council that have banished them without access to the resource-rich worlds beyond their system. They had developed revolutionary recycling technologies. Nothing went to waste. Quantum computing advanced at an astounding rate. Energy systems became so efficient that power was virtually unlimited. The inner planets were transformed. Mercury became a massive energy collection facility. Venus hosted atmospheric processing plants. Mars thrived as an agricultural center. The asteroid belt converted into shipyards and manufacturing facilities. The moons of Jupiter and Saturn housed billions in vast underground cities. Humanity had turned their prison into a fortress. In his laboratory at Cambridge University, Dr. Alan Foster stood before a holographic model of the barrier. His team had been studying its quantum structure for decades. The barrier isn't uniform, he explained to his colleagues. It has natural fluctuations, points where its energy state briefly changes, but not enough to get a ship through, said Professor Retta Johnson. Skeptically, not yet, Alan agreed. But what if we could amplify those fluctuations, create a temporary doorway? The theory was sound but untested. No one knew if a ship could survive passage through such a doorway. The first test required a volunteer lieutenant. Maria Vasquez stepped forward. I'll pilot the test ship, she said when the call went out. Her small vessel named Hope was barely larger than a fighter craft, but it carried humanity's dreams on launch day. Alan's team detected a natural fluctuation in the barrier. Maria positioned her ship at the coordinates. All systems ready, she reported, her voice calm despite the danger. Beginning approach now. The Hope accelerated toward the shimmering wall that had contained humanity for so long. As it reached the fluctuation point, Alan's team fired precisely calibrated energy beams at the barrier. The shimmering wall seemed to ripple, and for a brief moment, a small opening appeared. The Hope slipped through before the opening collapsed. For several minutes, there was silence. Then Maria's voice came through, filled with static. It worked. I'm through. The barrier closed behind me. I don't think I can return. The same way, there was a pause. I can see stars without the barrier's distortion. It's beautiful. I'll send back as much data as I can before the signal fails. Remember me when you take back the stars. Then silence, but her sacrifice changed everything. Humanity now knew escape was possible. The data Maria sent back revealed crucial information about the barrier's structure. With this knowledge, the scientists refined their approach. 10 years later, they successfully tested a two-way passage. A small probe went through the barrier and returned. The breakthrough humanity had been waiting for had arrived 200 years after the exile began. Earth was ready. Admiral Lisa Chun stood on the bridge of the flagship Freedom, surveying the massive fleet humanity had built in secret. Every ship was equipped with technology that would have been unimaginable when they were first banished. Status report, she commanded. All ships report ready, Admiral, replied her executive officer, Commander John Rivers. Operation Starburst is green across the board. Lisa nodded, taking a deep breath. The moment humanity had worked toward for generations had arrived. She opened a channel to the entire fleet. This is Admiral Chun. Today we reclaim our place among the stars. The Council thought they were punishing us by locking us away. Instead, they gave us time to grow stronger, to learn their weaknesses. Today the exile ends, not with a whimper, but with a roar. Let history remember this day as the beginning of humanity's return. Throughout the solar system, at precisely calculated points, hundreds of ships approached the barrier using the refined technology developed from Maria Vasquez's sacrifice. They created temporary doorways, passage points that allowed the fleet to slip through. The Council, long having forgotten about the quarantined humans, never expected what came next. The advanced human vessels appeared throughout Council space using quantum entanglement communication technology unknown to the Council. The ships coordinated perfectly despite vast distances. The first phase of Operation Starburst had begun. Humanity had returned to the stars, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Captain Ryan Blackwood stood on the bridge of the human vessel Horizon as it approached the planet Terrafar. The world below was rich with resources and home to the Aloran, a species with skin that shimmered like opals in the sunlight for generations. The Alorans had been forced to mine their planet's rare minerals for the Galactic Council receiving little in return. They've detected us, Captain, said Sensor Officer Kelly Adams. A small defensive fleet is moving to intercept. Ryan nodded calmly. Open a channel, let them see us. The view screen flickered, showing an Aloran commander. Her eyes widened in shock as she saw humans for the first time. We are not Council forces, Ryan said, raising his empty hands in a gesture of peace. We are humans. From Earth, we come to offer friendship and help against those who exploit you. The Aloran commander Shilara was suspicious at first, but when Ryan explained how humanity had been banished, how they had observed the Council's true nature from behind, their barrier, her interest grew. Why would you help us? She asked. What do you want in return? Alliance, Ryan replied simply. Together we stand a better chance against the Council than either of us does alone to prove their intentions, the humans. Shared medical technology that cured a disease ravaging Aloran children. They provided defensive shields for Aloran cities, and most importantly, they asked for permission before mining any resources, offering fair payment and technology in exchange. Word spread quickly across the galaxy about the strange humans, who had somehow escaped their quarantine, about how they offered alliance instead of conquest. The silicon-based Quelari joined next, then the hive mind Vesperi and the nomadic Nomoyal. Species that had suffered under Council rule, all now part of what became known as the Free Systems Alliance. The Galactic Council was outraged. In an emergency session on Nexus Prime, Elder Voss, now ancient even by Thraxi standards, called for immediate action. These humans have violated their quarantine. He croaked, his once bright feathers now dull with age. They must be contained again before they spread their chaos further. High Minister Zaxter of the Kaldorians, the same official who had advocated for humanity's banishment 2 centuries before, stood to speak. His species' extended lifespan had allowed him to see his decision come full circle. I warned this Council long ago about the human threat, he said, his voice cold with anger. Now they return, corrupting loyal species with promises of freedom. We must crush this rebellion immediately and return humans to their cage. This time permanently. The Council voted unanimously to declare war on what they called the human contagion, but the galaxy had changed during humanity's exile. The Council had grown complacent. Their technology had stagnated. Centuries of peace, enforced through intimidation rather than cooperation, had left them unprepared for real conflict. The humans, meanwhile, had spent 2 centuries preparing for this very moment. Their ships were faster, more maneuverable. Their weapons were designed specifically to counter Council technology. Their quantum phase shields could withstand attacks that would have destroyed older vessels, and most importantly, they fought for freedom while Council forces fought merely to maintain control. The first major battle took place in the Proxima Centauri system. The Council sent 100 ships to reclaim the human colony that had been established there. Admiral Peter Martinez, commanding the Alliance flagship Defiance, faced the Council armada led by Grand Marshal Corvex. Surrender, humans. Corvex demanded, return to your quarantine and your allies will be spared severe punishment. Peter's response was calm. We would rather die free than live in a cage. And we're not alone anymore. The battle that followed shocked the Council forces. Human ships moved in perfect coordination, using tactics never seen before. Their gravity manipulation weapons pulled Council vessels out of formation, making them easy targets. Their quantum phase shields absorbed energy weapons that should have destroyed them. Most surprising of all, when Quelari silicon ships joined the fight, alongside Vesperi hive vessels and Aloran hunters, the different species worked together with practiced precision. The Council forces used to fighting against disorganized rebellions found themselves outmatched by the Alliance's unity within hours. The Council fleet retreated, leaving behind destroyed and captured vessels. The Free Systems Alliance had won its first major victory, while the military conflict expanded. Alliance diplomat Elizabeth Wright worked tirelessly to bring more species into the fold. She traveled to worlds on the edges of Council space, explaining the Alliance vision of freedom and cooperation. The Council claims to protect you, she told a gathering of Solari, a species genetically engineered by the Kaldorians, to serve as laborers. But look at how you live, look at what they take from you, and what little they give in return. We offer you something different. Not charity, not control, but partnership, equal standing among free peoples. The Solari, with their Enhanced strength and intelligence had long been kept subservient through council laws that classified them as created beings, not true sentience. Elizabeth's words resonated with them. Their rebellion began quietly, then spread like wildfire as the conflict entered its third year. Intelligence officer Major Jack Wilson made a discovery that would change everything. While analyzing data from a captured council database, he found evidence of Kaldorian manipulation spanning millennia. They've been controlling council policy since the beginning, he reported to the Alliance leadership, keeping other species technologically dependent while stealing innovations for themselves. The Kaldorians aren't just one voice on the council, they're the puppet masters. When this information was broadcast across all communication channels using the council's own network, many council worlds erupted in revolt. The Thraxi and Morkai, founding members of the council, called for an emergency session to address these allegations. The war had reached a turning point. The Grand Alliance humanity had built was winning, not just through military might, but by exposing the truth that had been hidden for thousands of years. As council authority crumbled across the galaxy, Special Forces Commander Daniel Hayes led a small team on humanity's most daring mission yet. They infiltrated the supposedly impregnable archives on Nexus Prime, seeking the truth about humanity's original banishment. What they found in those ancient records shocked even the most cynical among them. Humanity wasn't quarantined for being dangerous. They were quarantined because an ancient Kaldorian prediction claimed they would one day unite the galaxy and end Kaldorian dominance. The Kaldorians had feared humans not for what they had done, but for what they might become. And in their attempt to prevent this future, they had inadvertently caused it to happen. As Daniel transmitted this final piece of evidence to Alliance headquarters, he couldn't help but smile at the irony. In trying to cage humanity, the Council had created exactly the force they feared most, a humanity that returned from exile, not seeking revenge, but offering liberation, a humanity that had indeed become the strongest force in the galaxy, not through conquest but through alliance. The revelation about the true reason for humanity's banishment spread across the galaxy faster than any ship could travel. Using the Council's own communication network, the Alliance broadcast the ancient Kaldorian prophecy and the evidence of centuries of manipulation. The effect was immediate and dramatic. On dozens of Council worlds, citizens took to the streets demanding answers. Ships from the Council fleet began to defect, turning their weapons against former allies. The carefully maintained order that had lasted for thousands of years crumbled in a matter of weeks. Admiral Peter Martinez stood on the observation deck of the Alliance flagship Defiance, watching as the combined fleet prepared for what would likely be the final battle. Of the warships of every design and size gathered, representing all 20 species that now made up the Free Systems Alliance. The sight filled him with pride. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from Nexus Prime, his communications officer reported. It's from the Thraxi and Morkai representatives. They're requesting a ceasefire and negotiations. Peter stroked his beard thoughtfully. Put them through. The view screen activated, showing Elder Trill of the Thraxi and Speaker Valen of the Morkai. Both looked tired and shaken. Admiral Martinez. Elder Trill began, her feathers ruffled with stress. The full truth of the Kaldorian deception has been confirmed by our own investigators. We wish to discuss terms not just for peace but for a new beginning. The negotiations took place on the neutral world of Harmonia. Representatives from the Alliance, the former Council, and even the Kaldorians themselves gathered in the ancient meeting hall. Diplomat Elizabeth Wright led the human delegation, her face showing the weariness of 5 years of war, but her eyes bright with the possibility of lasting peace. We do not seek revenge, she told the assembled delegates. We seek justice. We seek a new order where no species dominates. Another where technology and resources are shared fairly, where all voices are heard. The Kaldorian representative, Ambassador Zexmal, son of Zaxter, spoke next, his voice subdued. For millennia my people have guided the Council, believing our superior intellect and longevity made us natural leaders. We were wrong. The prophecy that we feared, the one that said humans would unite the galaxy against us, has come true, but not in the way we expected. You did not conquer, you liberated, you did not destroy. You built. We ask not for forgiveness, but for the chance to join your new order as equals, not masters. The discussions continued for weeks. Each species voiced their concerns, their hopes, their visions for the future. Slowly, a new framework emerged. The Galactic Council would be dissolved. In its place would rise the Galactic Concordat, a democratic federation where all species would have equal representation. Meanwhile, the war continued in distant sectors. Keldorian hardliners refused to accept the changing order. Special Forces Commander Daniel Hayes led missions to secure critical Council facilities before they could be destroyed or weaponized. During one such mission to a research station in the Antares system, his team discovered something unexpected. "It's some kind of super weapon," he reported back to Alliance headquarters. "The Keldorians were developing it in secret. Even most of the Council didn't know about it. According to the files, it can destabilize stars, causing them to go nova." The news sent shockwaves through the Alliance leadership. If the weapon fell into the wrong hands, it could be used to destroy entire systems. Chief Science Officer Melissa Duncan was assigned to study the device. "It's actually based on human theoretical physics from before our banishment," she explained after examining the technology. "The Keldorians must have been monitoring Earth closely. They took our theories and developed them while we were isolated, but they never fully understood the principles. That's why it's unstable." The Alliance faced a difficult decision. Should they destroy the superweapon, or could it be repurposed for peaceful use? The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Alan Foster, now in his 80s, had continued his research on quantum physics throughout the war. When he reviewed Melissa's findings, he saw something the others had missed. "This isn't just a weapon," he said, his aged voice still sharp with intelligence. "With modifications, it could be used to create stable wormholes, instant travel between distant points in the galaxy. It could bring worlds together rather than destroy them." As the political negotiations continued and the military conflict wound down, Alliance scientists worked to transform the Keldorian superweapon. The breakthrough came just as the final document of the Galactic Concordat was ready for signing in. A ceremony broadcast to every world in the galaxy. Leaders from 32 species gathered on Harmonia to mark the beginning of a new era. Chancellor Julia Morgan, the first elected leader of the Concordat, addressed the assembled representatives. 500 years ago, humanity was banished from the stars. Today, we return not as conquerors but as partners. In a new galactic community, we bring with us not just our strength but our commitment to freedom and cooperation. And we bring a gift on cue. The view screen showed the first test of the modified Keldorian technology. A stable wormhole opened between Harmonia and Earth, allowing instantaneous travel between systems that once took weeks to cross. "This technology belongs to all of us," Julia continued. "It will connect our worlds, reduce the barriers between us, and help ensure that no species ever again feels isolated or alone." The signing ceremony proceeded, each species adding their mark to the document that would reshape galactic society. The Keldorians, once the secret masters of the galaxy, were the last to sign. Ambassador Zexmal paused before placing his mark on the document. "My father believed humans would destroy us," he said, looking at the Earth representatives. "Instead, you have shown us a better way to exist. I sign this not in defeat but in gratitude for the lesson you have taught us all." Not all accepted the new order. Small factions of Keldorian loyalists retreated to the outer systems, vowing to restore the old council. The Draxid mercenaries, who had enforced council rule for centuries, became pirates and raiders. But these were minor threats compared to the unity and strength of the Concordatas. The first year of the new era came to a close. Humanity found itself in a position no one could have imagined when they were first banished. Their technology, their diplomatic skills, and their military prowess had made them leaders in the Concordat. But it was their vision of cooperation rather than domination that truly set them apart. The exile meant to punish humanity had instead forged them into something stronger than anyone could have predicted. It had given them time to develop technologies centuries ahead of the Council. It had allowed them to observe and understand the galaxy from a unique perspective, and most importantly, it had taught them the value of freedom. The humans had returned from banishment, not just as the strongest military power, but as the architects of a new galactic order, one built on the principles that Earth had struggled for centuries to achieve. 25 years passed since the formation of the Galactic Concordat. The galaxy transformed in ways that would have been unimaginable during the era of Council rule. The wormhole network expanded, connecting hundreds of worlds. Planets once isolated by vast distances now engaged in regular trade and cultural exchange. Species that had never met under Council restrictions now worked together, solving problems that had plagued them for generations. On the anniversary of the Concordat's founding, Chancellor Kevin Mills stood before the gathered representatives in the Grand Assembly on Harmonia. The chamber had been expanded 3 times to accommodate the growing number of member species. Now numbering over 50, 25 years ago, we made a promise to build something better than what came before. Kevin began, his voice carrying throughout the vast space. Today we celebrate not just our survival, but our thriving. Our wormhole network has connected worlds once months apart. The medical exchange program has cured diseases that plagued our peoples for centuries. The combined scientific initiative has solved energy and food production challenges across 1,000 worlds. None of this would have been possible under the old order of separation and control. Among the audience sat Admiral Lavra Bennett, descendant of one of the original exiled diplomats. Now in command of the Concordat Defense Fleet, she had seen firsthand how cooperation had created strength where division once reigned. Her ships were crewed by members of dozens of species, each bringing unique abilities and perspectives. After the ceremony, Lavra visited the Museum of Galactic History, where a special exhibition marked the anniversary. There she paused before a simple display case. It contained a piece of the original barrier that had once imprisoned humanity. A small plaque described its significance. 500 years, said a voice beside her. Laura turned to see Ambassador Zaxfer, grandson of the Kaldorian minister who had once condemned humanity. He had become one of the strongest advocates for cooperation in the Concordat, his work helping to heal the wounds left by his grandfather's actions. Excuse me, Lavra asked. It's been exactly 500 years since the original banishment, Zaxfer explained. The quarantine was supposed to last 500 years before humanity could petition to rejoin galactic society. Instead, you lead it. Lavra smiled. History is full of ironies. Indeed. The Kaldorian agreed. My grandfather thought he was protecting the galaxy from humanity. In the end, humanity protected the galaxy from the corruption he represented. Together they walked through the museum, viewing artifacts from the war that had reshaped the galaxy. The original Concordat document bearing the signatures of 32 species. The first wormhole generator, a replica of the Defiance, the Alliance flagship. We're deactivating the last barrier generator tomorrow, Lavra told him. A symbolic ceremony to mark the anniversary. There's only one left at the original boundary. It's been inactive for centuries, but it seemed fitting to remove it now. I would be honored to attend. Zaxfer replied. The next day, representatives from all major species gathered at the edge of the Sol system, where the last remnant of humanity's prison still orbited. The device was small considering the impact. It once had a simple metal sphere with intricate circuitry, now outdated by centuries. Laura stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Reconciliation. As the ceremony began, a small team approached the generator in a shuttle. Each member represented a different species in the Concordat. Together, they would deactivate and dismantle the final piece of the barrier. This device once separated humanity from the galaxy, Lavra said, addressing the assembled dignitaries and the billions watching via broadcast. Its deactivation symbolizes the end of separation and the triumph of unity. The team worked methodically, removing the power core that had somehow continued functioning for 5 centuries. As the core finally went dark, a cheer rose from the watching crowd. For many humans, the moment represented the final closure of a chapter in their history that had defined them for generations. Later that evening, Lavra stood alone in her quarters, looking out at the stars. Her great-great-grandmother had been just a child when humanity broke free of their exile. The stories had been passed down through her family about the struggle, the determination, the vision that had transformed humiliation into triumph. A chime at her door interrupted her thoughts. Enter, she called. Captain Gregory Summers stepped into the room. Admiral, the Reconciliation is ready for departure. The crew is assembled. Lavra nodded. The symbolic ceremony had coincided with a much more significant event, the launch of the first expedition beyond the edge of the Milky Way. The Reconciliation, the most advanced ship ever built would lead a fleet of exploration vessels to the nearby Andromeda Galaxy. Has everyone boarded? She asked. Gregory smiled. All 47 species are represented, Admiral, including 3 Kaldorian scientists. Lavra felt a sense of completion at his words. The mission represented everything the Codex stood for. Not conquest but exploration, not dominance but cooperation. The crew included members of every major species, each bringing their unique knowledge and abilities to the journey. As they walked to the bridge, Lavra thought about the strange path that had led to this moment. The exile that was meant to punish humanity had instead forged them into leaders. The barrier meant to contain them had given them time to grow stronger than anyone could have imagined, and the prophecy that the Kaldorians had feared, the one that said humans would unite the galaxy, had come true in a way no one expected. The Bridge of the Reconciliation hummed with activity as final preparations were made for departure. Lavra took her position at the command center. Gregory beside her. All systems ready, Admiral, he reported. The fleet is in formation. Lavra looked at the view screen showing the assembled ships and the vast expanse of space beyond the unknown, waiting to be discovered, new challenges to be faced, new civilizations perhaps to meet. Her ancestors had fought to free humanity from its cage. Now she would lead them beyond the boundaries of their own galaxy. Captain Summers, she said, give the order. Gregory nodded, addressing the fleet. All ships prepare for departure. Our mission to explore beyond our galaxy begins now. We were once confined to a cage, but in learning to escape it, we discovered how to free everyone. Now the universe awaits. As the wormhole generator activated, creating a stable passage to the void between galaxies, Lavra felt a profound sense of pride in how far they had come. Humanity had been banished, cast out from the stars, but they had returned not as conquerors seeking revenge, but as leaders building something greater than had ever existed before. The strongest empire in the end was not one built on fear and control, but on cooperation and freedom. The lesson of humanity's journey was clear. Sometimes the greatest strength comes not from domination, but from the ability to unite, to inspire, and to imagine a better future for all. The reconciliation entered the wormhole, leaving the Milky Way behind. The descendants of the exiles now led the way to new frontiers. The Banished had not only returned, they had transformed the galaxy itself.